The question of the United States providing Ukraine with Tomahawk cruise missiles seems to have been resolved. Media reports say Washington has signed a deal with the Netherlands to send at least 200 such missiles that, under NATO arrangements, may be transferred to Ukraine. Who will operate these weapons and for what goals remains unclear. Valery Zaluzhny, the former commander of the Ukrainian armed forces, said Kiev still hopes to achieve progress in its conflict with Russia by modernizing its military, as he noted that it will soon form cyber forces and space troops. Ukrainian military expert Valeriy Ryabykh said that Tomahawk missiles may soon be supplied to Ukraine. And while Russia will eventually adjust its rhetoric, for now the Kremlin has only one mode of communication: wunderwaffe narratives and theatrical displays. Regarding Putin's threats, the latest argument was the Oreshnik, which the Kremlin used in an information operation, allegedly deploying it in Belarus. However, no one has actually seen these systems, and even if they were deployed in Belarus, it would have no military significance, only informational value. For example, to strike European targets with medium-range Oreshnik missiles, there's no need to place them in Belarus at all, Ryabykh explained on Espresso TV. According to him, Tomahawk missiles could indeed be provided to Ukraine, and Russia will then figure out how to react. Russia may respond to the Tomahawks much as it did to Finland's accession to NATO, claiming it's not opposed and therefore accepts it. The same will happen with the Tomahawks, and later with the recognition of Russia's defeat in the war against Ukraine. The Russians will eventually adjust their rhetoric, but for now they must rely on what still works for them: the wunderwaffe narrative and other show-offs, as Putin himself once called them, in order to sustain their dialogue with the world. However, we can already see that the global community is paying less and less attention to what the Kremlin or Putin personally says. Ryabykh added, judging by the geography of recent attacks on Russia, the Ukrainian armed forces appear to have been given approval to strike not only the distant areas in Russia's Volga region, but also targets beyond the Urals. But it is not an exception that the main target is Moscow. I think the US may accelerate Tomahawk Block V-type missile deliveries to Europe and later to Ukraine amid the Pentagon's aim to test those in combat. Retired Russian colonel and military expert Vladimir Popov told Nezavisimaya Gazeta. Furthermore, on October the 7th, Ukrainian parliament held the first reading of a bill on creating cyber forces in Ukraine. Ukrainian troops are being upgraded rapidly, Popov continued. In 2024, drone units were formed within the Ukrainian army, and in 2025 it established assault troops and a special air defense drone command, with cyber and space forces coming next, he said. The expert believes this reform warrants close attention. Ukraine is still preparing for continued combat against Russia, and the United States and its NATO partners have been supporting Kiev throughout. There should be no illusions about this, he concluded. Ukrainian long-range fixed-wing FPV drones are expanding the battlefield, hitting targets tens of kilometers away and leaving no safe space for the occupiers, writes Forbes. FPV multicopters are effective in attacks on tanks, trucks, artillery and infantry. However, according to Ukrainian unit commanders, fixed-wing FPVs are gradually becoming the weapon of choice for strikes at ranges greater than 30 kilometers, where range and payload are needed. Range, speed and payload are fundamental advantages that make fixed-wing FPVs strategically valuable despite their operational complexity, says Michael, commander of the Typhoon drone unit of the Ukrainian National Guard. Unlike multi-rotor drones, which derive lift from rotating blades and boast exceptional maneuverability, fixed-wing aircraft operate like conventional aircraft. They utilize energy more efficiently, save fuel better, and significantly increase their range. This gives them an advantage when striking remote targets such as air defense systems, radars, logistics hubs, and fuel and ammunition storage facilities. However, the wing's efficiency comes at a price. Launching and executing missions is more complex. Fixed-wing aircraft require a prepared space or appropriate launch procedures, as well as careful route planning that takes into account fuel consumption, weather conditions, and air defense positions. Unlike multi-rotors, they can simply hover or abruptly change trajectory. Fixed-wing pilots must constantly think ahead about their energy status. Michael noted, fixed-wing aircraft have less room for error during attack runs. Once you begin the attack run, there's less room for oscillation. Their inertia limits the ability to make sudden maneuvers, making course corrections in unforeseen circumstances more difficult than with multi-rotors. Despite this, at ranges of approximately 48 kilometers or more, fixed-wing aircraft are increasingly performing strikes that were previously reserved for long-range weapons or guided missiles. The affordability and ubiquity of FPV multicopters have already made them deadly effective on the front lines. Their impact has been compared to the advent of machine guns or barbed wire in World War I. With good reconnaissance and planning, fixed-wing FPV drones can penetrate enemy rear areas, making missile and artillery logistics hubs and removable air defense positions dangerous. Therefore, their proliferation could change approaches to rear area defense and the development of early warning systems. Recall, the German manufacturer Quantum Systems is ramping up drone production in Ukraine and strengthening cooperation with its German facilities. According to Politico, Quantum's vector reconnaissance drones were among the first to be delivered to Ukraine as humanitarian aid in the early days of Russia's full-scale invasion. Drones, however, are demonstrating new skills on the front lines. Recently, Ukrainian forces successfully attacked a Russian warship with FPV drones for the first time on August the 28th in the Temryutsky Gulf of the Sea of Azov. The Russian corvette Buyan M, which was armed with Caliber cruise missiles, was reportedly hit. Russian troops are now employing anti-drone interceptors to shoot down Ukraine's most popular long-range strike unmanned aerial vehicles, including the FP-1, Lyuty, and E-300 models based on ultra-light aircraft designs. But this does not work either. Anxiety is growing among the population, which is creating dissatisfaction with the authorities. The population complains about being defenseless.